Jim, thanks a lot. We really appreciate everything you've done for the company, and we're probably going to be calling you back anyway.
Thank you, Dave.
Peel the clock back another 10 years, 1985. Swindell is working on contract 1176. It's a Corning project. Outside, Wayne Brett's got to do this for a couple of hockey guys in the room. Broke his single season record, Wayne Gretzky. We all remember who that one was, 126th assist. Quantum Computer Systems Company is formed that year. Anybody know that name? Quantum Computer Systems? 2 years later, they renamed themselves America Online. 2 years later, AOL, 1985. The Commodore 64 was the hot PC on the market. Mr. Polis, what 64 stand for? 64 kilobytes of RAM. You could not run AutoCAD on that machine. Mr. Eicher.
Yo.
You have a couple words.
I don't know if I'll be as good as the rest of them. I got a few words here. I come up here so I can see you. Unfortunately, this is not a roast on Jim, because I can't think of anything to roast him on.
The picture was pretty good.
You got to show it again, I didn't see it. Okay, Jim Wright started his commitment to Swindell Wrestler on 3/29/1965. Today we celebrate his retirement after 50 years, 1 month and a few days later. That's a lot. And he tells me he's only 65. Jim is married to Mary Lee, and they have 2 children. Brian, why don't you stand up? Brian's his son. Brian is married to Jane. Right next door. Daughter is Lisa. Lisa, stand up. There's Bob. Between those two, they have 4 grandchildren for Jim and Mary Lee, Jack and Katie, Megan and Brady. Jim started with the ceramic group, but did work for the Swindell Furnace Group for a few years. He worked with George Barth, Jack Miller, and John Fetzer. I really didn't know Jim at that time, even though my hire date was 2 months after his, or a month and a half after his. Jim eventually transferred back to the kill department, and I don't know the exact timing. Maybe you remember the exact date you came back? I didn't know that. But now I had Jim working for me, Bob Herzig and Art Hosey. They were all working for me. We made a fine group. I could rely on Jim's abilities to get drawings done that almost required no checking. Almost. That seemed to be true of all my guys. I was a lucky one here. However, other projects required his time also, so his time with me was somewhat divided. I recall he made a trip to Australia for a few months, and that was, I hope it was enjoyable, because that's the place I always wanted to be. I went every place else but Australia. I got to know Jim and Mary Lee at our many functions, Christmas parties, home barbecues, and the yearly family kill picnics. There were also other retirement parties thrown in. Payday Fridays, every 2 weeks, for our stag softball games at North Park. George Catalano, Ron Krause, George Wazinski, Pete Petras, Glenn Larkin, Tommy Thompson, Jim Bushman, Ron Kier, and Rich Sable. Just to name a few. I know I'm missing some. After the game, we always played bocce ball by car headlights until the cops threw us out of the park. Working with Jim was a breeze. He anticipated the questions I would ask, and solutions came easily. I don't know if being retired will suit Mary Lee, but when I retired, my wife Jan was afraid I would mess up her normal daily routine. We survived. Yes, you rules the roots. game and get that hole in one. Thanks for being a good friend always.
$1975. Swindell is working on contract number 832. It's a corny project. Interesting, 2 years after the embargo, OPEC grows to another country and raises the price per barrel to $12.21.
Oh.
It's an interesting fact. Inflation weighted, that's more than it is today. Interesting. Jack, Tamina, stand up.
This is gonna be a killer.
New Orleans, does it ring any bells? What do you know about New Orleans? You're sitting next to Mr. Bourbon Street over here.
So that's what I know.
Something happened at the University of Tulane. Any thoughts?
I don't know.
The fourth of something. It involved Minnesota,
Oh, the Steelers.
and the score was,
16-6.
there you go.
I can't read that, but I remember the score.
Super Bowl number,
Oh, that's a good one.
I'm not going to tell you. Super Bowl number 9.
Was it 9?
It was 9.
I was gonna guess that, but that would've been wrong.
I didn't embarrass you too bad, Jack. I just made you smile. I asked Russ, but Russ would have known that on the first clue. George, you got a couple words?
First of all, thank you for inviting me here to celebrate Jim's 50th anniversary. Probably a lot of you know, 50 years ago, Jim came to work for Swindell Retirement. Probably like a lot of the draftsmen, he walked in with a cardboard box and some of the same tools that Carl had mentioned earlier, a 45-degree triangle, a 30-60-degree triangle, an engineering scale, and a pricing shield, and probably a Smoley's book of slopes and rises and machinery and
He still got them.
Razor shield?
back that up here. And every day Jim came to work up there, and he'd take out a drawing, a piece of paper out of the drawers, tape it down to his drafting board, line up the margins and all that, and prepare drawings on a daily basis of kiln cross sections, longitudinals. He did this for like 30 years until Carl said until 1985, when AutoCAD came along. 1995, and all of a sudden here came automation. The company sent probably about 2 weeks that we sent the Aspen out there to do a little bit of training. That training consisted of the basics of what AutoCAD was all about. And he had to come back in and either learn it on himself or between Darcy and Dave Connell, they kind of worked it all out together. And this went on for how many upgrades of AutoCAD? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up until 3D and whatever we're doing right now. So, Jim, I'm not sure right now you probably still have that plastic triangle, so you do it by ash. And I still got mine, that's the reason I know.
We all do.
Just let me do a highlight of some of the changes Jim's going through in his 50 years of the technology changes up there. 50 years ago, Marsh started work for Swindell Retirement Division of Pooling Incorporated. That lasted for how many years? And taken over by Rust Engineering, eventually Wheeler Fry, and finally Dave became over to who we are right now. So Jim weathered all those changes along with the technology. During all those changes, we probably went through engineering managers, probably George Barth back there at the first group, Francis Petras, Amanda, myself, his managers, Dave Davies, Ron Worth, Mrs. Dennis Manley, Mrs. was there, and eventually Carter. So Jim, I guess you went through quite a few changes up there about the engineering business. Also, along that period of time, we went through about 9 different presidents. Owen Cross, Dick Moffett, somebody from Willowbrook, I forget who he was before David took over. And get some of the other ones. I think there are 9 different presidents up until Ralph right now, who is the most recent president. Jim survived all those. I tried to go back into some of the draftsmen up there, but there were so many draftsmen who passed the doors over the years up there. There was a period of time when the engineering business was so busy up there that the draftsman would come to work for Swindell Retirement. He heard that somebody was paying an extra 25 cents an hour and guaranteed 20 hours of overtime, and they'd take off and go to work for somewhere else. So it was kind of a revolving door with the draftsman for a while. So she survived all those people when they paid hundreds of those. So that pretty much sums up some of the other people. We worked with all the different construction people, Greg Sullivan, construction managers, and he's right now he's about to go into a different phase of his life up there in retirement. He's managed all these extremely well, and based on how well he's survived all that. We know Jim's going to do before fine in retirement. The only trouble is you may be president of your company there. It's your right now. You've got a manager that's going to barely she's going to take care of all your scheduling in the future. Your grandchildren and everybody else will probably schedule all the rest of your time. So, Jim, it's been a pleasure working with you, and wish you the best of luck. Likewise.
The year's 1965. Unfortunately, Corning hadn't been formed yet. So we're working on all things Alcoa at the time. Contracts in the 570s, and that's interesting because 50 years is half the company's history, but we're in the 1700s now, 1,200 more than that. So 2/3 of the contracts that we've logged are in the last 50 years. So 2/3 of our contract history, you've been involved with one aspect of something or another, and half of the company history. What was going on outside? The first manned Gemini 2-person space launch was 1965. There have been unmanned Gemini launches, but the first 2-man launch occurred in 1965. The Dow was in the 900s, and I found that interesting going backwards because what that signified to me, looking at the history of the stock market, was that 1965 economically was very good. Subsequent to that, and we've all lived through 2008, and it's 2015, and the Dow's back up to over where it was in 2007. The Dow closed that year at 969. It never went past 1,000 permanently till 1982, 17 years later. What Vietnam did, what the end of the space race did, what other things did, who knows? Of course, we're leading into Vietnam in 1965, big time. But from an economic doldrums time frame after 1965, it was relatively tough. A gallon of gas was 31 cents. Jim, you're a car guy. Stand up for a second. I want to go out in 1965 and buy a loaded, convertible, 289 Mustang Hearst T-handle. How much is it going to cost? Quicker. $2,000. $2,400.